You're listening to Clear Inner Focus's Expanding Voices, where your host, Patty Jackson, and her guests share inspiration, real human stuff, and the thrill of confidently standing in expanded self-expression.
When it comes time for me to get things done, what I end up doing is I take on about 3 projects at once. Even if it's just doing the dishwasher, cleaning the kitchen, and straightening my room, I'll do all of them at once. I'll start with my room, and when the momentum of that wanes, I'll go into the kitchen and unload the dishwasher. Most of the time, I finish the dishwasher, and when that's done, I'll go back up to my room or I'll start cleaning the kitchen. I'll find myself not even knowing I'm going to start all of these projects. The mood just hits, and there I go. My husband's the complete opposite. When it's time for him to get something done, what he does is he will finish the dishwasher, and he'll start with the plates and finish the plates. Then he'll go to the silverware and finish the silverware. Sometimes I look around and think, wow, that's really different. And sometimes he looks around and sees the way I get things done and thinks that's really different also. And then sometimes we look at those differences and judge either ourselves or the other people in the way that they do it as wrong or right and better. This judgment is something that really can make life hard. And today I'm really excited to share a talk I had with Gail Swift. Gail works with teachers and students, helping them understand each person's unique way of operating, their mode of operation. And she uses the Colby Index to help them do that. I'm excited to introduce to you a conversation I had with Gail Swift and today's second episode of Expanding Voices called My Way is the Highway for Me. So welcome, Gail Swift. I'm excited to talk to you today about your expanding voice.
Every single time I have an opportunity to do this, Patty, it's a complete honor and a blessing for me. So because it is an honor and a blessing because I feel like I am in my lane, which is what I'm encouraging other people to do. And when I get to tell people about what that looks like, it's exciting for me because I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm doing this because so many years ago, I was in school and I have Tourette syndrome, a neurological disorder. And I also had a really tough time focusing in school because of that. And the way that I work naturally is very random. And so in school, that was a gift that was hard to be celebrated because I had to be still and I had to be quiet. And over the years, it felt diminished that I wasn't able to truly be who I was in school in particular. And I learned many years later through some trials when I was about 15 years old, I tried overdosing on the very medication that was helping me with my Tourette syndrome. And 3 years after that, I realized how I worked. And what that told me about myself was, ironically, that whole time growing up and being in school, that I am random and I am last minute and I am what people call a free spirit. I can think off the top of my head and come up with really quick answers and make quick decisions. And that's okay. So for the whole, growing up years, and I was told to think about it and be still and be quiet and really, is that the right decision? When in my gut and paying attention to me, I knew it was the right decision. So because of those circumstances, Patty, I am encouraging others to do the very same thing.
Wow. So your differences that you had in school were things that people were trying to pound out of you instead of seeing your differences as a gift and helping you have a platform for that. I'm wondering, Gail, if because it took so long and that journey was so arduous, did it make you more passionate to be who you are today? Or how do you think that actually leads to the gift of who you are today?
It took me a long time to get there. It didn't just come, it's so funny as we learn in certification with you, and then through my journey of becoming a believer, it is about, for me, it was about letting go, and it was about surrendering, and it was about admitting that the posture of silence is an active posture. It's not a passive posture. And I still need to be reminded of that every day. And quite frankly, it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I actually became, I'm in my lane 4 years ago. And so it's taken 20 years of wandering around in the desert, as I like to call it, wondering, poking my head around a corner, seeing, in a door, is this my room? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And prayer and patience and just being open-minded about what's happening, it happened. The less striving and the less trying I had to do, and the more still I was, as we've talked about many times, it happened, and it's happening now, and I'm thrilled with it. And so, may I talk about the school that I'm working with, Patty?
Please do. Yes.
Okay. All right. So what's coming on the radar, and as you said at the beginning, was about families and kids. And you are so right. One of the things that I absolutely love is working with families that have an interest in knowing how their kids work, and then making sure that they are the best contributors that they can be. And it takes a lot of courage for a parent to do that, because they have to realize that maybe their way isn't the way that their kids need to be. And that's kind of tough, and that takes a release as well. And so I applaud that when parents contact me. I think that's courageous, and it takes a lot of effort. And to take it a step further, I am working with 425 eighth grade kids in North Las Vegas, and I am teaching them how they work, and I'm teaching them the beauty in how they work when free to be themselves, and that this doesn't change over time. And when they can count on it and know it, and some of them are in a position where they can't right now, Patty, and that's okay, because I asked them to borrow my belief. Like, if you don't believe what I'm saying about you to be true, that's okay, because there's going to come a day when you are ready. So right now, just borrow it and know that what I'm telling you is in you, and it's not going anywhere, and it's perfectly perfect. So when you're ready to access it and call on it, it'll be there for you.
I just am really curious, because you talk about the way that people work and the way that kids work. And I don't think our listeners really understand what you're talking about and the magnitude of it. So what I know is, when I took the Kolbe Index test and I found out I'm a quick start, that's my mode of operation too. Suddenly, all those ways that I work, it's not like there's something wrong with me that I do it this way. It's what's right with me. And then I get to look around at the fact finder that I live with. And instead of thinking, what's wrong with you? Don't you trust the system? No, that's your gift. And I love how working together makes us really operate in the world together really well. I can get really good ideas, but they're a flash in the pan, or that I can take them to a certain point. But when I have someone that slows them down and puts a system around it, I can take my good ideas, and together we can take our good ideas and bring them to fruition. So those are some of the things that I learned even in my life about the way that I work and the way that my husband works. But those are just two of the major modes of operation that I know you help people identify. What other modes of operation do you see and hear?
I do use Kolbe. I do use the Kolbe assessment to figure these things out and to help me access this beautiful part of people. And so, are you asking about what the 4 modes of behavior are?
Yes. What are the 5 modes of behavior?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What might we find in someone? What's a tendency of that mode of behavior where you can look at it and finally lift the filter of saying, that's not something wrong with this person, but there's a gift in it. And here's the gift.
Right. So my husband and I were married in 1997, and I have had my Kolbe results since 1991. And when we were in college, before obviously we got married, I would rapid fire questions at him super fast, thinking it was a good time and fun. And he was Velcroed to the wall. He wasn't having a good time at all. And I was thinking, what's wrong? Isn't this fun for you? And he would say, it depends. It depends on everything. And your husband fact finder, my husband fact finder. And I was thinking, what does it depend on? Just make a decision. And then I realized in 1997, when he took his Kolbe, that he does initiate in this mode called fact finder. And what that means is that he has a need. These are needs, Patty. It's not a personality or IQ, has nothing to do with your personality, but your husband and my husband both have a need to do the background when they solve a problem. They start with making sure all the details are in a row, and they're prioritizing what to handle next. And they want to make sure that it's been done before and it's right and it's accurate, and they'll turn out very high quality work because of that gift. It's a need for the details. And the second mode is called follow through. And that mode is for systems and organization. It's ironic. These people have a need to finish what they start. You and I don't have that need. We can have 6 or 7 projects going at one time. And the beauty in that is that it kind of cuts through bureaucracy or red tape, and we can think of alternative ways to get things done, which is a gift. It's a gift. And kids in school that have this gift, it is my absolute thrill to be able to tell teachers the gift that this is, because a lot of teachers see this as kind of a difficult situation. When I can turn it around and say, in school, if you feel stuck on something or something isn't working, ask these kids another way to do it. And they can teach the class or teach the concept on a way that works for them. So there's the beauty in that follow through. Then the third one is called quick start, and that's risk and uncertainty. And that deals with basically your risk and uncertainty and your level of it. So you and I both start a problem by brainstorming in this mode. And we talk when we brainstorm, and not all of our ideas are going to come to fruition, like you said, but some of them might, but we have to talk through it first in order to see what's going to fit. And the last mode is called implementer. And this mode is space and tangibles. And it deals with the sense of touch, like a haptic, almost a sense of touch. And people that initiate in this mode are often surgeons or chefs, because they have a need to feel, smell, taste the food, the texture, make sure it's okay. So everyone is somewhere on that continuum with those 4 modes of behavior. And the Kolbe test makes it specific. It gets really specific on the way that these people can solve problems. And the point is, it's kind of like, hey, parents, hey, teachers, all the kids are capable of solving problems. And here's how. It's like proof, right? It's proof. And I used to think that I was the best one to solve everyone's problem. I would think, why isn't everyone doing it like me? Until my family took the Kolbe, and I realized that everyone in my family has a beautiful way of solving problems that's not my way, but they can do it. And as a parent, I release the grip. Also, as a business owner, when I know someone's Kolbe, I can release the grip and let them do their work the way they do it, because I know they'll get it done when they're motivated.
Right. I find that fascinating because I used to do that. Why isn't everybody doing things like me? Or if they did something, I assumed that the reason why they're doing it would be be motivated by the same reasons I would be doing something that way. And what I have found is I used to like to really be with people who do things like me. But then when it comes time for really getting something done, it's not so effective to have everyone have the same drive and the same way of getting things done. Not in big projects, not for a long time. It really helps to have other gifts coming into play for big projects. So that's some of the things I really like about what you're doing with the kids and helping them understand themselves. As a teacher, I used to watch kids in the classroom, and I'd see the special ed kids getting individualized education plans, but I could look around and say, no, they need one. Everyone, all of us needs an individualized education plan. Because if you take these unique gifts and these unique ways of operating, and then we put our personality strengths on top of it, and all of our unique given gifts on top of that, our unique desires, our unique area of genius. Wow. That's how I can be uniquely me.
Yes.
And so I know you're uniquely you, and I heard your story starts with the Tourette syndrome and understanding that throughout all of your schooling, and really getting to a point of just like, I want out, and then realizing the best way was to really do the deep dive, I want in, and understanding who you are. Besides giving the test to these kids in the school, is that your biggest and most passionate expression of your expanded voice now over these years, Gail?
Good segue. Really good segue. I will tell you about, there have been some really pivotal points lately in my life, and I'll share these. Actually, this is the first time I'm going to share these with you, with anybody. Since I tried committing suicide when I was 15, and I was really close to it, and my son was going through some similar situations a few years ago, and I didn't see it. Amazingly, I was so close to it. And then I was going to be a speaker about suicide in schools, and I was looking to see about speaking. And then my son was in more pain, and it got real fast. It got very real. And I realized that he was doing the same thing that I was doing when I was 15. And so my husband and I made some big decisions, and with education and doctors and therapy, to get him the help that he needs. And I realized that, and he knows his MO, he knows how he works, and he was in a lot of pain. And so I'm going to fast forward a couple of years, because this was 2 years ago, but when I was just in Arizona getting certified for Colby again. We have to keep up credits. Kathy Colby was up on stage, and then she made the announcement to the world that she is going to, and in the process of, finding a link between conation and suicide. There's a certain mode of behavior in kids that almost would be a precursor to this. She also has what's called a student effectiveness test, or an efficacy test. And that is more of an affective instrument that uses arrogance on one side and insecurity on the other. So if you have an MO that is already predestined to have a hard time in school, along with this efficacy result, and if the child is extremely insecure, potentially with this MO, that could lead to something more. And so I guess I never realized when I was 15 and I was in a coma for a day and a half, that this is the reason that I would wake up. This is what I would wake up for. To be able to help kids, that, like me, and my son, and say that there is something more for you that you might not be aware of, and to encourage and to hang on, because I'm here today to talk to you about this. And that's why I believe that I'm here today, is to talk to them about this link. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. Wow. So there's a really big picture, amazing path that you have just really laid out, where you experienced it firsthand, and then learned more of who you are, and learned who God was for in your life, and then developed your gifts of facilitating and understanding this, and then experiencing it within your own home with this dear beloved one in your own house.
Yes.
And how all of that continues to lead this passion that you have, I can hear.
Yes.
Letting kids know exactly what is the bottom line message that you are sharing. With or without the Colby, what is it that you're letting these kids, whether we're adults listening and we're the kids that are feeling scared, feeling like there's something wrong with me, feeling like it's too hard to be alive, or whether we're teenagers or grade schoolers, from your experience, Gail, now from this side of the fence, what is it, bottom line, you're really saying to the hearts and souls of these people?
You have something to contribute that is unlike anyone around you, that is specifically made for you. Specifically made for you, and it doesn't look like your parents, and it doesn't look like your teachers or your friends, but you have a gift that no one else has, to contribute to the lives of other people in this world. And my wish and my prayer and my goal is that people would find it and use it.
Well, I do know the best way to learn or the best way to lead anything is to be the example that you want to see in the world. And I want to acknowledge you, Gail, for being that person with this unique and special gift and having this purpose and being unstoppable in sharing it with the kids in the schools in northern Las Vegas. Yes, northern Las
Thank you.
Vegas.
Yes, yes.
What people don't know is that Gail founded and funded a great portion of the program in order to be able to use her time and her talents to reach these kids in the school. And I understand from you that these are some kids that are in some of the most challenging situations that there are.
Indeed. Yes. And ironically, there are people, I have friends in different parts of the United States that are also educators that have reached out and asked if my team and I would be able to help them in their school to help their kids know this unique ability in different parts, which is exactly what I want to be doing.
Beautiful. I know that what you said is you can borrow my belief for you if you can't hold it right now, but just that someone knowing that someone outside of them is holding the belief that they're okay is so powerful. And another thing I know to be true is that my kids grew up in a very, very affluent high school in the area. And sometimes it can be just as painful, because if we can't blame it on our socioeconomic problem, pain is pain is pain is pain.
Right.
And I'm not going to underestimate or undermine the real pain of not being able to eat, the real pain of some of the things that happen in cities that are at a big level, boundary crossing and all those kind of things. And I do know it's normal human stuff. To have to undertake the journey of who am I? What is the gift of who I am? And then how am I going to develop it and expand my voice and share it in the world as only I can?
Yes.
And I want to thank you, Gail, for your journey from where you were to where you are today, and that expression that you just shared with us today and that you are sharing with so many kids in the world. It's my honor to be talking to you and for you to have spent some time here sharing this with us.
It's been my humble pleasure, Patty. Thank you.
So if people want to get a hold of you, if they're looking to do something in their school to empower their kids and to get these kids to understand themselves, how do they find you? How do you work?
So ironically, I'm going to give my phone number because I prefer that way of communication the most. And
Old school.
It is old school, and that's totally fine. You can text or call, but you'll probably include this, but it's 608-833-5482. That's my cell phone, 608-833-5482. Bob Goff has it on the back of his book, so I think I can say it and be completely fine. So that's my phone number. And then email is gail@planstoprospercoaching.com. gail@planstoprospercoaching.com.
Excellent. And you actually go into the schools and work with classrooms at a time, or how does it work?
Teachers, and then the classes. Yes. So teaching the teachers that are interested in knowing this, it's generally about 1 out of 4 that are interested in knowing this way of new teaching and with their kids.
Right.
And then I work with their students too. Yes.
So when you teach these teachers, how does it make them different with their students?
Oh, meets them where they're at, Patty.
Yeah.
It completely meets them where they're at. And so what's the beautiful thing about it is it crosses all barriers, because when the kids have the lanyards on and they see their pattern of taking action, you'll see people like you and I going to the fact finders for the details, and then they're coming to us for the brainstorming, and then the implementers are building the project, and then the follow-through knows the timeline. So it's synergy. Like you said, when you are in a room with 4 or 5 other of you, it's called inertia, like nothing happens. But yet when there are a bunch of different people and they appreciate everyone and use everyone's gifts, they completely move forward. And oftentimes the teachers, first of all, the grades go up, the attendance is fantastic. And then the kids learn from themselves because they're motivated, because they've been freed of that way to learn, and they're free to do it their way. So they get motivated. You can hear it in my voice, and now I'm animated but they get motivated to learn because they could do it their way. So when you're doing a math test, like, why couldn't you bake or do something outside or do something with balls and geometry? There are so many different ways to learn besides writing it down. So it's just kind of fun. It's just fun to explore. Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple questions. When I was a teacher, I had some students. I'd love to throw them at you and see what Colby and understanding their mode of operation would do to help these students had I known that back in the late 80s.
Right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Not going to say the name, but I had this great young man who really wanted things to be sequential. And when the things weren't sequential and organized, he got really upset, and he would actually start crying and kind of fall apart. And this is a 6th grade boy, which was horrifying for him. What might have been going on for his mode of operation and how the classroom was going on?
So it's dangerous to guess, but I have a relative, my son Noah, has a similar situation to needing things in sequential order. And he also stabilizes in the risk and uncertainty category when I have a tendency to not. And so what I say, we negotiate now, he's older, but when you're in 6th grade and there's behavior issues when things get out of line, obviously when things happen, there's behavior issues. He has a physical reaction to cognitive stress, which is completely normal. So what is good to know is a whisper or pulling aside and tell him what's going to stay the same. So he can expect what's going to stay the same. The other thing is he already works in patterns. So he has a need for sequential things. Then he can try and establish a pattern. Change comes in patterns. So if he can recognize the pattern of change, then he can try and minimize it and it won't be as scary.
Wow.
So that's just off the cuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I also appreciate it's dangerous to guess. And yet, just to understand a little bit more about how this works, I think that's why it's fun to hear these stories. Mm-hmm. I had another student who was, this one just broke my heart because he was great. He just sat up in his chair, up on his foot a lot. He moved around in his seat a lot, but he got good things done. He paid attention to class. He just wiggled a lot. And then one day his parents came in and said, oh, yep, he's on ADD medication. And he sat in his chair and he wasn't very excited about things anymore. But he was never a classroom problem. He just kind of wiggled around a lot as he didn't even wiggle that much. He just kind of sat up like this and moved back and forth. Is that indicative of a certain processing that might be going on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Colby Corp did a study. I think it was on, the numbers are not going to be accurate, but it was around 450 kids they tested that were diagnosed with ADD, ADHD. And out of those 450 kids, they did Colby's on all of them. There were, I think, 8 with actual diagnosis of ADD, ADHD, meaning the other kids initiated in 2 modes of behavior called quick start and implementer. The implementer is the need to feel and do things. Like if you're in circle time with an implementer or quick start, they're like, oh, great time to touch my neighbor, because they're right there. So they have a need to touch, right? So, and the quick start is always moving around. They get bored easily, right? They're always moving around. My son is that. So I have had to go ahead of him. Now we're going together. And with that particular student and with my son, having a talisman or a fuzzy thing in your pocket, a fidget in your pocket that you can use or touch. And the other thing is that Tyler, my son, had to figure out how he was going to have his gifts shine in an atmosphere where that, again, like me, is hard to. So he has coined himself the handyman of the school. So if there's a clock battery out or they need to be turned back, or if there's a chair leg broken, that student that you had might have been a great asset to things that have been broken in the school. And then he could get up and do errands and physically do things for teachers that would have helped a lot. Or if there's any way that he would be able to sit on something in the back of the class or stand when he wants to, as long as he can learn, what's the problem?
Right. Well, it sounds like a great tool to have in the back of the toolbox. I do know there's some things where there is actual ADHD where it's a real problem.
Yes.
I think in all the kids I worked with, there was only one who behavior modification, literally needed those medications or could not channel his energy whatsoever. But I worked with a lot of kids. So I appreciate that there's some other things around strategies to channel that into good places and to good things and to being able to be grounded here in the earth and contribute. So thank you for sharing with those. I have so many other kids in my mind, but I know that, again, it's dangerous to guess, and yet it's fun to contemplate, what's not right with this kid, and what are they discovering about themselves, and how can they be their gift, and how can I support their self-discovery in being that gift?
I'm glad you were their teacher.
It was so much fun. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Now I get to do it in new ways. So
yes.
Well, thank you so much again for being here, Gail. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Patty. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today. You can learn more about Patty and Clear Inner Focus coaching, classes, workshops, and coach certification at clearinnerfocus.com. Please subscribe to our channel and keep the conversation going by adding your thoughts, questions, and experiences in the comments section below.